Hi, everybody. I'm Diane. I'm head of product management at Scaleway, and I'm talking to you today about how currently measuring your cloud activity is wishful thinking or not. So just to begin, I just wanted to remind some figures. 4% of global carbon emissions are digital. So that represents the consumption of Japan by 2026 if we collect all the AI data center and crypto energy. And we have a figure that 100 words generated by ChatGPT represents 1.5 liters of water. So we have a massive and huge impact due to digital services. So we have to measure it and improve it. But if we can't measure it, it's greenwashing. According to an IATU survey, the emissions of tech companies are split like that. 81% of emissions are for the scope 3, 15% for scope 2, and 4% for scope 1. So just to remind, the scope 1 is the diesel, the scope 2 is the electricity, and scope 3 is the impact of all the suppliers, mandatories for the company service. But that you have to know, it's only 75 of the top 200 tech companies have participated to this survey. So that does mean that there are 65% tech companies missing, and we don't have the emission. They are not fully reported. So right now we have figures, very huge figures about the impact of the technology on our planet, and we don't have the whole point of view. So that's a point important. So right now, let's get a step back. When we as Scaleway wanted to create an environmental and footprint calculator, we had three main goals. The first one was to provide understandable reports. The last global risk report of the World Economic Forum emphasized that executives with training and sustainability can better interpret environmental data and integrate it into actionable strategies. Leaders without strong backgrounds in sustainability often struggle to use environmental reports effectively. So for us, it was very important to make understandable reports. The second one was to provide multi-criteria reports. Other factors, you all know maybe the carbon indicator, which is great, but other factors such as energy consumption, the use of natural resources, waste management, and the impact on biodiversity must also be considered to fully assess the sustainability of the service. So by providing a clear and comprehensive evaluation of environmental impacts, it enables companies to make better decisions and track progress more effectively towards sustainable practices. And last but not least, at the beginning of 2023, the ADEME, the French Agency for Ecological Transition, launched a PCR for data center and cloud services. So the PCR provides guidelines for assessing the environmental impacts of data center and cloud services, aiming to standardize the calculation of environmental footprints for these digital services to promote transparency and sustainability. So they launched those guidelines in 2023, and during last year, Scaleway have been part of a working group with many actors on the industry to test it and to improve it. So now we support ADEME, and we hope that this standard will be adopted by the market for more transparency. So right now, let's open the hood and talk more specifically about our methodology, which is the first step in order to create a calculator. So as I said, the PCR was the basis for methodology, and the PCR takes into account the whole chain and rely on the life cycle analysis method, which means calculate the impact and the emission from extraction, manufacturing to the end of the life of the material. So that's it for the life cycle analysis. So when I am talking about the impact of hardware, I'm not only talking about the usage part, I'm also talking about the manufacturing, the transport parts. So just another thing, I already spoke about the scope 1 and scope 2, and you see that it's a small part, it's only 20% part of the emissions of a digital company. And the scope 1 and scope 2 are quite easy to measure and to report. The real difficulty is the scope 3. When I talk about scope 1, I already said that it represented by the diesel backup consumption, generator consumption, and the electricity consumption for the rooms you rent in a data center. But the scope 3, it's more, it's huge and it's more difficult to get the data. And I will deep dive into it just in 2 seconds. So I talked earlier about the product category rule. For instance, it requires us to take into account the stock that there is in case of bar or RAM must be replaced. For that, we will divide the sum of the impact of all hardware components in stock by the total of number of servers. So for this example, that means that the PCR requires us to use the impact of the stock, and even if it's not directly used by our clients, but there is already an impact. So also, our calculation of the impact of the electricity consumption are based on the location-based approach, as it has been required by the PCR2. Also, we have PPA, power purchase agreements, type contracts for each of our data centers. So we have not chosen to take them into account in accordance with the ADEM guidelines, but later we will add it. Those information, so the market-based location approach, to the reports, but right now we are offering the location-based approach as the ADEM guidelines requires. But on the other hand, we also decided to integrate some parts not required in the PCR. For instance, the impact of cross-IT equipment, such as servers and storage devices dedicated to enterprise needs. For instance, we integrate the emissions and the impacts of servers running for our API gateway, or for the billing, or for IAM, or for another services used by all of our customers, and which are mandatories for activity. And at least another example, the PCR requires reporting impacts under at least 5 mandatory criteria. We decided to offer only 2 criteria because we think that the digital ecosystem is still not mature concerning multi-criteria emissions factors. So right now we are beginning with 2 criteria and not 5. But we want to help our clients to better understand those environmental criteria and to use it for strategies. So let's deep dive into the scope 3. Remember when I saying that our problem was to calculate the emission for the usage part. So this is one thing, but the most difficult part was to calculate the emissions for the manufacturing and the transport parts. So before using the hardware. So you have to keep in mind that the share of manufacturing in the footprint of a server represents 45%, and the rest is for the use, which means for one rack server, one rack server can have a footprint of 850 kilos to 2 tons of CO2 equivalent, even before it has been used. So that represents one round trip from Paris to New York. Just to keep in mind this information. So what we did, we identified all the references of our hardware equipment. We contacted all the suppliers to obtain the carbon footprint document, and Many of them answered, other few didn't. And when we had them, we realized that those documents lacked the other indicators. So what we decided is to use the Boa Vista database in order to have an estimation for the manufacturing and transport footprints share. About data centers and networks, to calculate the impact of the data center and the technical environment in it, it's necessary to have either a preliminary study carried out by the hardware suppliers and data center administrators, or a quote, including all the components. Without such a study, we have chosen to use ADEM data to evaluate the impact of the construction of the data center and technical environments, like air conditioning and power supply system. And we decided to put a life cycle period has 25 years. And for network, we estimate the impact of manufacturing of the manufacturing of equipment using also the Boa Vista database. And we decided to use a duration for the network about 10 years. So that's it about data center and network. And last but not least, the employees share. So why it's important? You can say that for Scaleway, which is like small company, 600 employees, the impact of the employees could be very small regarding all our clients. But the thing is, if you don't have a comprehensive report, you cannot improve the impact of all the different center costs. So for us, what we decided is to integrate it, because we already had the data in the calculation, and to collect the data, we are based the figure on our annual impact report conducted at the Scaleway scale. But we decided to update it like one time a year. Why? Because we made this impact report just one time per year, and the figures are too small. We felt that the update rate was sufficient regarding the size of this figure. So when we are talking about all the methodology, what was the feature that we are proposing to our customers? So right now, the environmental footprint calculator is available for the customers using bare metal and more precisely the elastic metal products in our console. And what they can see when they are in their purchase page for a server, they can see an indicator at the zone level. Because why we did that? Because we wanted to give them the keys directly during the purchase stage to choose the right service and the right location. And by the right, I mean the most relevant service and location for their needs. So right now, when they want to create a resource, the list system helps the client to compare, and on mouse folder, the figures appears with the details of kilogram CO2 equivalent per kilowatt. So they can compare the impact between the different locations, and the gap can be huge. As you can see, between Paris 2 and Varsovie 2, the factor is between these two areas is 16. Because we know that we have in France decarbonized electricity due to our nuclear power plants. So you have to keep in mind that choosing the right location, it's a very, very effective way to improve your impact. Second, then taking into account the location, we display estimation of kilogram CO2 equivalent per hour or per month, depending on what you select. At this step, it's important to evaluate the right size of your server regarding your needs. The bigger it's not always the better. For instance, the NVMe technology offers significantly higher data transfer rates, leading to higher power usage during active states. But it can also replace multiple SSD to deliver equivalent or superior performance, reducing the total number of drives needed. So you have to keep in mind that you have to choose a more powerful service if you need it. And if you have small needs, you can just choose a small server, and your consumption will be small, and your impacts also. And at the end of the purchase page, we display an understandable equivalent for the CO2 emissions. Right now, the point is to create referentials and to give anchors in reality. For instance, in this example, this consumption of this server represents a 9-kilometer train journey, just in order to help the developer to understand what does represent this figure in real life. The second feature is the report. At the end of every month, a report. At the end of every beginning of month, a report is available in the management console or through API with carbon and water metrics split per project, per location, and per product. It's the first time a cloud provider gives a report with the water indicator, so it's important. And for electricity measurements, since we do not manage the server for our clients, data cannot be collected directly from the servers. So for this problem, we provide two options. The first one is to base with the reports on our hardware usage estimations. And the second one is to propose the installation of a user agent on their servers, allowing us to provide the most accurate consumption data possible. So just to keep that in mind, by default, you will have estimations, but if you install this user agent on your server, we will be able to provide you the real consumption that your server has. So just to sum up, we just wanted to show this dashboard. We don't want to say that you are doing the best calculator in the market. That's not my point. Our point was to make you understand that when you are using an environmental footprint calculator from a cloud provider, just ask yourself what is in this calculation, in this estimation. Are we talking about scope 3? When we are talking about scope 3, are you talking about the employee impact or the data center impact? What you are talking about the servers and equipment? Are they providing another metrics than carbon, like water? Because when you have a PUE high, you can have maybe a low WUE, and vice versa. So just to keep in mind that when you want to compare one figure from a competitor and one figure from Scaleway, keep in mind that the calculation method are different. So that's why we are supporting ADEM to incite our competitors and the market to use standards in order to help our clients to have a clear way, a clear view of this point. And at least, if you want to access to more information, you can find on those QR codes the environmental footprint webpage and the Green IT white paper wrote by my colleague James Martin, and the last impact report made by Scaleway. Thank you.